Right, 31 August 2024. And today I'll be giving you my update for the day of all the trending news that is taking place in Zimbabwe. And we want to start with a bizarre thing that is happening in Harare. And this is the massive shortage of bread that has started taking place. And those who lived in Harare in the early 2000s, they know what I'm talking about. Bread becomes like a scarce commodity. And this has started as the ZIG is crashing. So the ZIG currency is crashing, and there is popular brands of bread called Proton bread. Proton bread. This bread is in a big shortage because it's now being used in place of the US dollar. So people are now using the bread in place of the US dollar, and they use it to trade on the black market. So can you believe that people are now using bread to trade on the black market? So if you go to Harare, there is the bakers in bread, which is usually in a big supply. And then there is the Proton bread, which is very tasty and very popular. All over the country, they drive to different places. So this is Proton bread, and they produce a lot of different types of breads. And this bread in the shops, it's costing 14.50 ZIG. So that is 14.50 ZIG. If you go to places like Zimbabwe, if you go to places like Pick and Pay, you're going to find this bread around 14.50 or 15 ZIG. However, if you go to the black market or to the tuck shops, this bread costs $1. And $1 is currently trading to 1:26 or somewhere there on the black market. So if someone was to buy the loaf of bread for 14 ZIG 50 with a swipe, then they go to the tuck shop and they sell their bread for $1. They've made a profit of almost 40%. If you've got 100 loaves of bread, that means you make $100, but you have bought that bread with $60. So on a daily basis, you can make yourself $40. And that is what is happening. That's why there's this massive shortage of bread in Harare. And there's been a massive crash of the ZIG because the ZIG is not real money. I've been telling you that the ZIG is fake money. The amount of fake ZIG in swipe is unbelievable. There's going to be an avalanche of cash that is going to be released on the electronic platforms because the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe does not know how much money is in the system, how much money is in EcoCash, in Inbox, how much money is in the suspense account of the banks, how much money was there before the ZIG, and how much money is there now, how much money is being created through interest. All these things, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe does not know. And I've explained to you that this money is going to drop dramatically. By the end of this year, the ZIG will be back to zero because it's not real money, it's fake money, especially the electronic form of the ZIG. That is why you see that they are not releasing the cash ZIG. And this is going to continue. So Proton bread here being used as a form of US dollar. People buy it at a low price, and then they go and sell it in the tuck shops for a proper US dollar. And suddenly, there is no bread in the shops. I don't know why they don't use bakers in bread. It's probably because it's not popular in the villages and in the other places like high density areas. But the Proton bread is the one that is extremely in short supply. So if you go to any shops right now, the moment that bread comes out, it's gone. People love this bread, Proton bread. And it's not a new bread. It's like, I think 60 years old. I was checking on the internet there that their bakery is quite old and established. But this is what is happening in Zimbabwe. The ZIG is crashing. And I feel sorry for people who live in Zimbabwe at a time like this. I used to work in Zimbabwe in the early 2000s. And I would look for cooking oil. I would look for mealie meal. I would look for bread. I would look for salt because the exchange rate is just manipulated. There's no money there at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. It's not real money. And yesterday they tried to remove the charges on all ZIG transactions. It won't work. What will work is to go back to the fundamentals, release the cash ZIG, focus on cash so that the ZIG works. The one that is gold-backed, the ZIG that is gold-backed is the cash ZIG. So the only way that you can stabilize the economy is to make sure that the physical cash ZIG is available in the ATM. People can withdraw it, they can move around with their money, and you control the supply of that money, because the electronic ZIG is not in the control of the Reserve Bank. The banks are creating fake ZIG. They are banning what is called banning, which is you create a balance, you go to the black market and sell, and then you come back and delete the account, knowing very well that within a few weeks, the ZIG is going to be lower, and you'll be able to do mathematics inside your system, and that money will disappear. The ZIG is not going to survive. It's going to crash. And this is because the banks everywhere in the world, they do the same thing. If you look at Forex, a foreign currency like, or a currency like the ZIG, it moves the same everywhere. It moves in waves. And if you see a ZIG that is stationary or straight, like the way they're trying to do now, that's manipulation. Eventually they'll get tired. And when they get tired, it will drop so badly because they'll fail to defend it. And then people accept it at a certain level. It will stay there for a while. And then when it comes from there, it's going to drop dramatically. And you're going to see a massive fall of the ZIG. So if you're in Zimbabwe, don't put your wealth or all your savings in the ZIG. Do the right thing. Buy an asset. Go into this kind of trade. So if you're working a job, find someone to do this kind of thing for you. Open a tuck shop. Do something that will grow your wealth. $40 a day. That is what someone is making from selling bread while you're sitting in the office arguing with people. So don't do it. Don't think you're big when you're in an office arguing with people. Do something for your life. So now I want to, and I've got no respect for John Chwienga. He has failed to make changes at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. We give him advice here on a daily basis. Was even taken to court by people. And he thought people were stupid when they were telling him that you cannot change the Reserve Bank without making dramatic changes to the people inside. The black market dealers, they live inside the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. There are offices in the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe whose only job is to destroy value. So as long as he stays with the same team, with the same deputy governors, with the same surveillance team, with the same team that disperses cash, he's going to face the same problems. There will never be any prospect of the Zimbabwean economy doing well as long as the same guys that are there, the Reserve Bank, are there. The Reserve Bank is the source of all the problems in Zimbabwe. And the same problems that John Mangunja faced, John Chwienga is going to face, and is going to become part of the problem. Right, let's go to today's events. There is a massive number of events that have taken place today. And I want to start with the US ambassador to Zimbabwe, Pamela Tremont. So she has visited General Chwienga at Mutapa offices. And I want to show you a video of her talking after the meeting. It's very interesting that the United States is starting to approach or talk to the Zimbabwe government. I showed you what Sekuru Joe is doing, Joe Ding, with his active engagement on the Zimbabwean policies and also active engagement of the Zimbabwean government officials, including traveling to China with Mnangagwa. The US government, they have got certain advantages over the Chinese in Zimbabwe, and I'll mention those after I play this video. There's a lot of goodwill among the Zimbabweans, the common Zimbabweans, to the US and the way that they have been supporting young Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, and also their firm stance on human rights abuses. So that is where the United States have got an advantage. So given a chance or a choice to work with the US or with the Chinese in Zimbabwe, most youngsters would choose to work with the US guys. And I want to take you to that video with General Chwienga, there's a good opportunity for the US in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is open. It's got so many areas that are not addressed. So let's see what the ambassador of the US said after a meeting with General Chwienga.
We talked about the U.S.'s longstanding commitment to the Zimbabwean people as the largest bilateral donor and a significant contributor of drought assistance this year. I think the U.S.'s commitment to Zimbabwean people is clear and has been for many years. We talked about Zimbabwean government priorities in agriculture, education, manufacturing, tourism, and how the U.S. is contributing to those areas. There's a few companies here already. Of course, we'd like to see more. You saw the Hyatt has just opened down in CBD, taking over the Mikely. There's a U.S. investor in mining. John Deere has had contracts here. There's U.S. franchises and so on. So there are a few U.S. companies. We would like to see it increase dramatically, of course. There's a trade gap. Zimbabwe exports a lot more to the U.S. than the U.S. exports to Zimbabwe, which is great for this country. We're happy for Zimbabweans in that respect, but obviously more trade is better.
Okay, so I think that was a meeting, a closed-door meeting. There's obviously a lot that was discussed over there, but what I would say is there are so many gaps in the Zimbabwean market, and the gaps are in modernization. So Zimbabwe is not a modern economy. So what is lacking in Zimbabwe is infrastructure. And when I talk of infrastructure, I'm talking about a total revamp of the whole infrastructure. It's like you're rebuilding from scratch. So there's going to be a big need at a tertiary level, not only at the primary level, which is designing, consulting, and also in the financial service sector, in incubation. Those are the areas where the US can do very, very well in tourism. And as I've been saying, in high-speed rail. So high-speed rail is going to be very big in Zimbabwe. There's also big gaps in the Zimbabwean economy. There are things that don't exist in the Zimbabwean economy. If you take a normal economy and you put it here, and you take a Zimbabwean economy and put it here, there are certain things that don't exist. In 50 years' time, Zimbabwe will be so developed because it is small, so everything is close to each other. And that ability to move fast between places is going to be very, very important. However, there's need for injection of technology. So in the technology space, in connections, and in basically creating a modern economy, the US can do very, very well, where the Chinese are not able to do it. The Chinese are good at creating best technology. They are good at creating connections, like in South Africa here. All the networks that you see here in South Africa, the cell phone network, are running on Huawei. And the data centers, everything is basically being run by the Chinese. In Zimbabwe, it's different. It's not like that. There is no, those things don't exist. So you're talking about greenfield or nothing existing. You can create that thing from scratch and you can own it, which means the US can get into Zimbabwe and create something that does not exist. You've got a clean piece of paper where you can design whatever you want to design and put it there. And that is where you need to move with speed. The Chinese guys are not good at that. They are good at putting in place things, but then they don't go to the next level, which is to create that ecosystem. I've not seen them creating an ecosystem. But that needs the US to come into Zimbabwe with a different approach, which is almost like the planned cities that I'm talking about all the time, the high-speed rail, that design component to create that then you own the actual design. You're not worried about the commodities that are underlying. Look, for example, at the shortage of cement and what the guys are doing with steel, the Zimbabwean guys. They don't have that long-term view to say, what do we do with our steel that we produce? They are only thinking about taking the steel outside the country. They never think about how do we take the same steel and build. How do we create an economy of tourism that will give us $10 billion a year? And how do we put in place e-commerce, an e-commerce industry that can save 16 million people, that can become $1 billion industry? Those things don't exist from the Chinese side. And that is where the US have got a very big advantage. And if you create, for example, some sort of Silicon Valley, in Zimbabwe designed those kind of things that are not existing. Those are the competitive advantages of the United States of America in Zimbabwe. They will do very, very well, but not in direct competition with the Chinese. For example, the rail system that can come from China, it will cost $30 million per kilometer. And the rail that comes from the West is going to cost $80 million per kilometer. So you obviously not be able to compete there. But once that rail is in place, what the Chinese guys don't know how to do is then go into that city and create the ecosystem which will last for longer than the underlying infrastructure. So infrastructure is there to connect, but then what you do with that system that you've created and how you design it and how you get people to move from the States, from Europe to come to Africa and go to Victoria Falls, from Victoria Falls, go to other places, move around into a hotel. That is where the money is. And that is where the US can do very, very well. So I'll send you my invoice after this because the US can make a lot of money in Zimbabwe. So I think I've done enough for the embassies. Let's see what Mnangagwa is doing. Mnangagwa is in China. He's visited the BYD factory, if I'm not mistaken. And Mnangagwa is, as I always say, he doesn't have a structured vision. So let me explain to you what I talk about a structured vision. Mnangagwa does not know where things start and where they end. So what is the priority for the Zimbabwe government? Mnangagwa does not have it. He goes to China or he goes to Dubai and then he meets someone. They talk and that's the end of it. He went to Dubai and said they're going to put smart SOC, security operations center. And then after a few months, nothing happened. So he needs to put everything back to ZIG. So Mnangagwa needs to meet the people and then hand over and the implementation to ZIG. At the moment, Mnangagwa is trying to implement the business transaction. So if he goes to a country, he then wants to have that thing happen in his office. ZIG is not supposed to be sitting with Mnangagwa every day. They're supposed to be sitting with the investors. So yesterday, Mnangagwa went to, I think this is BYD, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see the name of this company here. It's a manufacturing car company. And when he got here, they are talking about electric buses, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but it won't work in Zimbabwe. There are no charging stations. So you need solar buses. So solar buses, that's what they've done in Senegal. They're solar buses. I don't know if these guys have got those buses. You also need the infrastructure, which is a dedicated bus rail. That does not exist right now. So if you have a dedicated bus rail from Chwienga to Harare, a dedicated bus rail from Glenview to Harare and Proton to Harare, those are the kind of bus roads you need, Rua to Harare. That will work. But at the moment, what Mnangagwa is doing, he just goes and thinks about the bus. And I've been talking here about a holistic view to planning. You need planned city. You need to also look at rail. So when Mnangagwa is in China there, you must go and see China Railway Group, ZIG. ZIG is supplying countries like Tanzania. Tanzania's trains, standard rail gauge rail, is made from the Chinese. And the Chinese are very good at rail. They can put it up within a very short space of time. And it's very efficient. Currently in South Africa, they are planning a new rail system, which is going to be running between Gauteng and Limpopo. And this could easily be a blueprint or something that you use for developing Zimbabwe. These are massive projects and they create millions of jobs. So the one in South Africa is estimated that it will create 10 million jobs over 10 years. Because when you have rail, when you've got fast speed, you change your country. Your country becomes something different. It becomes cleaner. People make money. And electronically, people are able to transact and go from this place and that place and do things and then come back very quickly. And people don't have to stay in Harare. You see how Harare is a mess. Everyone is building in the same place with no order. Imagine if you can expand Harare by 100 kilometers so that someone can wake up in the morning and in 15 minutes, they're in Harare after taking a train that takes them into the city. So that's a different kind of thinking And that is where Mnangagwa is failing. His thinking is very short term, and he's only fixing the things that Mugabe did. So everything that Mnangagwa is doing is what Mugabe started. He's not starting his own thing. He's not looking at where our best advantages are coming from, which is Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls is attracting a massive number of people. There are flights coming into here almost on a daily basis, all of them full. And people love the Zimbabwe side of the Victoria Falls. So they need to rethink everything. And that is where Mnangagwa is not managing. And this is Harare. Harare looking amazing from the top. But go in here, and this place is a mess. It's as if you're in a ghost town. If you go into Harare, there's no business taking place. The decor is bad. The buildings are crumbling. And people are selling little things with no order. There's no production. So people import everything. So Mnangagwa's thinking, and the thinking at ZIDA is a problem. You know, I've got beef with ZIDA because of what they did. They hacked my phone. And we have to find out why they did that when I was in Zimbabwe. So that is beside the point. There needs to be a rethink. The economy of Zimbabwe can do very, very well. But this kind of thinking that is right now with Mnangagwa is not working. And it's not about a politician. So when I talk of 50-year plan, it's not about a politician. It's not about Mchamisa. It's not about Mnangagwa. It's not about Chwienga. These things should be done. It's a national thing to develop our economy. Okay, I almost forgot Mohadi is in Indonesia for the Indonesia-Africa Summit. That is going to be there today. So those are the events for today. Now let's quickly go into Botswana and the Botswana military. So the Botswana military has announced that they are going to be paying pensions to retired soldiers. They're going to be recalculating the pensions for retired soldiers and also for some serving soldiers. These amounts are being recalculated because the government of Botswana has moved their pensions to a different pension fund without their permission, and they've been taken to court by the soldiers. This has resulted in the Botswana Defense Forces recalculating the pensions, and this goes all the way back to 2008. So some of the soldiers are going to get quite a lot of money, especially the retired soldiers. Already 2,300 soldiers, 230 soldiers have been paid, and there's a recalculation of about 3,000 soldiers. The total number of soldiers affected, retired soldiers, is 9,300. So this is going to be happening. The Botswana government is doing very well for the military and for serving members of the security services. If you go to Gaborone, you see that the soldiers and members who serve have got nice accommodation. They put them in a nice little space, and they drive nice cars. It's clean. It's looking very neat. Unlike when I walk at the barracks in Zimbabwe, what I see there, the lack of technology in Zimbabwe, my army is shocking. If you go to the Botswana guys, they've got a lot of technology. I think this week I saw them launching a car that also becomes a boat. If you check it out on the internet, they're doing very, very well. And when I was in Botswana, they were doing some exercises over there in Botswana. So the Botswana military are doing very well. And you know my ideas about the planned city for the military, which I've been advancing here over the past few weeks. Now, let's see if there's anything else that I have forgotten. I'm going to be looking at young YouTubers. They're doing very, very well. Miss Trudy is in Zimbabwe. She's moving around with some of the top YouTubers in Zimbabwe. And that is Kundai Chitima here. Is moving around with Miss Trudy. So go check out Kundai Chitima's channel. He's one of the best YouTubers in Zimbabwe, moving around with Miss Trudy. And there's also Kevin Biriot. And I think I saw a girl called Tandiwe. Funny enough, I was not subscribed to Tandiwe's channel. It was my first time to, like, I used to see her, but I only found out that I was not subscribed to Tandiwe. So go over there and subscribe to Tandiwe's YouTube channel. These guys are in Blawe right now. These are the top YouTubers of Zimbabwe. And all I can say is we've got a great future that is coming. And we need to make sure that our media works. Zimbabwe is doing very, very well in terms of youngsters going out on the social media. Here at Gambakwe, every single month, we reach more than 5 million people That is people who come to watch all our platforms. And I'm not even counting the other platform, which has got crazy numbers. I'm counting the traditional platforms here, which we have. And the impact that we're making is amazing. So everywhere I go, when I just walk past any place, there is no one who doesn't have the recognition of Gambakwe. But we need to move it further. We need our country to do very well. And currently it is not doing well because the underlying culture in our country is very bad. And this culture is political, but it's also the way that Zimbabweans see themselves. So we need to change the way Zimbabweans see themselves. We need to stop accepting certain things that are wrong. So don't say if you see someone arrested and they're thrown in jail for 90 days for no reason. Do not accept that. That is not our future. That is the past. And myself, I'll never accept the past. I'll never accept what Mnangagwa is doing. And I'll never be paid for anything, for anyone to change my mind about injustice. So there is a lot of injustice in Zimbabwe, and we need to fight that injustice. And I'm speaking here knowing very well that most youngsters who stay in Zimbabwe, they cannot speak out because they will be thrown in jail. What we've done here at Gambakwe is over the past 14 years, I've worked with almost 30 of the YouTubers that are in Zimbabwe right now. Starting from scratch, before they had their first channel. And most of them are now working as YouTubers, prominent YouTubers that you know. And I think that is the part that we need to play. Eventually, we need to transform the whole country into a modern country. And within the next 50 years, we need to make Zimbabwe the top country in Africa. And that is because Zimbabwe is very small and everything is together. And I always tell people that the ability to move with speed is going to be Zimbabwe's competitive advantage. The ability to move from Bulawayo to Harare in 2 hours, Bulawayo to Bedbridge in 1 hour, those kind of things. Those are the advantages that we need to put in place, and not all the other stuff that has been done. Our advantage is to bring people into the country. Someone can go to the Great Zimbabwe. From there, they go to Hwange, they go to Vic Falls. Do you know how many game parks are around Kariba? I'm shocked at the number of game parks. People don't even know how many game parks we have over there. So tourism is going to be the best of our economy. And we need to be able to talk about our country, but not lie. I don't want to lie that Zimbabwe is doing well. And I will never lie that Zimbabwe is doing well until it's fixed. The foundation is there, but the only thing that is there in Zimbabwe right now is the thing that was built there by people who have left hundreds of years ago. We need to build something so big and so good that our country does well and we become a success. Then let's go to the arrest of Hepimo Chidziva. Police are seeking this MP, Hepimo Chidziva. He is called Vondo, CCC MP. He is accused of taking away his wife's young sister, a 16-year-old, and living with her somewhere else. And he's also accused of having strange relationships with a string of opposition MPs and students, leaders, activists. You can go check out the details on Gambakwe.com. If you just type Hepimo Chidziva, he's being looked for by the police. He's on the run. And I'll eventually release audio from one of the girls. I do have one of the audios of the girl describing what was happening. I also have an audio by Vondo trying to explain himself, but it won't work. The man must just go to the police and face the law. And he's going to face the law for a very, very long time. Obviously, the fight between Nelson Chamisa and Ibo Mandaza is getting worse. Every time Chamisa tweets, Ibo Mandaza is going to come out and exclaim, and especially religious stuff. So I think eventually Chamisa will have to block Ibo Mandaza, and the fight is on. We're going to see a new opposition coming up very soon, and Nelson Chamisa is probably going to be challenged. We're going to see a challenge on Nelson Chamisa very, very soon. In South Africa, yesterday there was a blockage of the road to Zimbabwe. Over 100 cars have been stolen and taken to Zimbabwe through the Bedbridge River at Limpopo. I think that river there is Limpopo River. People have been crossing there with high-end cars and selling them in Zimbabwe. 100 cars have been blocked, have been stolen. And these people, as they pass through Limpopo, they commit crimes. And the community has said they don't want it. So yesterday there was a blockage of the road. I'll share with you some pictures later on. And this is because of corruption on the South African side. The South African people are the ones that are letting all these things happen. It's not the Zimbabwean side. So I do not want to see anyone from the South African side complaining. They need to deal with their own security agencies, their soldiers, their home affairs officials, the police, their metros. They're involved in this corruption. The police in Limpopo are so corrupt, especially the guys on the road. And this has been happening for years. So let me tell you what happened. In 2003, right? You must say Zifuni. So in 2003, I went to collect my car in Durban, my first car. So I drove, I went on a bus and went to Durban. On my way back, I had a friend of mine who is a soldier in the South African Army. So he drove me all the way from Durban to the border. So as we got to Limpopo, I think there's a place called Mokopane somewhere there. Just as you get out and you're almost going to Baobab, there was a South African policeman there. He chased us down. And he saw that we don't have a number plate. So he chased us down for almost 2 kilometers. We didn't want to stop where there's no lights. So we kept going. And then when we finally got to the light, we stopped and he got out. And immediately he arrived. He didn't say anything, just said, give me 400. They said, what 400? And said, give me 400. So I'm like, and this guy, my friend is a soldier. He was sitting there quietly. He was watching the whole situation. And then, obviously, I took out the 400 to give him. And then the soldier guy started to question him. And there was a massive altercation because my friend who's a soldier can be crazy sometimes. But there was an altercation. So to end the whole situation, the guy drove away. And that was in 2003. Guess what? I think that was 2015. I'm driving at night, alone this time. Guess who approaches me? Same guy. And he stops me and he says, give me 400. So for 13 years, this guy has been operating in this stretch. All he does is collect the 400 and he goes away. You don't get nothing. He doesn't ask you why, anything. You just give him the money and he goes. I hope that he is gone now. It's 2024. So it was like 9 years ago. But you can see what I'm talking about. The problem that you have in South Africa with the thefts, with cars driving all the way to Gauteng, from Gauteng to Limpopo, it's not the thieves. It's the people inside. You have to change the culture in the police, in the metro, in the immigration. You have to retrain people. You have to move people from those little places where they work. Make sure that they don't treat people badly. If you go to Beitbridge, they slow down everything on the South African side. You see people queuing, long queues there. They've got touts running at the border. That border in South African side is a mess. You need to fix that. That is why there's crime. The crime is not caused by Zimbabweans. It's caused by people in the system. And I don't have to explain why that needs to be fixed. The system of immigration in South Africa needs to be fixed. And eventually, it will be fine if you make it electronic. And I am happy that the new minister who is coming, the Minister of Home Affairs, is doing a very great job. This week, they've stopped all manual processing of the ZEP. You now do it electronically. You go in the system and you do that. Do you know that a Zimbabwean cannot electronically do anything in the system of Home Affairs? For example, if you want to get your any service at Home Affairs, you have to physically go there. They've deliberately removed these electronic services from the foreigners so that they can get bribes when you go there physically. And those are the kind of things that the minister must sort out, and also the community must understand. Corruption is evil, and corruption finishes or takes away opportunities from communities. There is no one who's supposed to be corrupt at work. Let's understand that. If you want to make a business, leave the company where you're working. Do not be corrupt there. Go and form your own company and you make money. It's very easy to make money as an employee. Don't try to go to someone else's company or a government department and then stop everything working so that you can make money. That is what has been destroying Africa. And our African officials, they don't get it. They don't understand why corruption is bad. So I think I've given myself some time to talk about this. Let's see what else I have to cover here. Okay, I think I've covered everything. Regarding the Chwienga builder, I don't know what has happened. I don't see an update, but I've seen someone tweeting that the same couple had promised to build a restaurant for Madam Boss. So I'm going to find out whether that is true or not. If the same couple scammed Madam Boss or promised to build Madam Boss a restaurant. So let's see what that is all about. You can go check it out online. But once the details come, we'll be able to give you the details. So that is Anavesta Mudiwa and Gray Mudiwa. They are apparently a fake group of builders, or they take the money but they don't build. Right, I think let's look at the newspapers. Let's see what is in the paper. In the Chronicle newspaper, there is the Duke. Is this the Chronicle newspaper? The Duke and Slay Party in the H Metro. The Duke and Slay Party is going to be in Harare on Sunday. It's not satanic, like other people are saying. The only reason why people are saying it's satanic is someone says the organizers, but they never mention the organizers. So if you go to the H Metro, you only see the organizers have said this. The organizers have said this. Are the organizers the ones that are satanic or what? Why do you mention who the organizers are? So please, next time I want to see the name of the organizers. And then let's see what is in the Chronicle newspapers. So there are people who complain when I mention a Bulawayo story. Bulawayo is not a tribe. Bulawayo is a city. So when I say something happened in Bulawayo, I'm not being tribalist. I also come from Bulawayo, so there's no reason for you to grow feelings when I say something about Bulawayo. So let's I say there's a statistic about Bulawayo. It doesn't mean Kuti. I'm the one who is saying it. Don't be prehistoric. Mtogas Omoshe. Those guys are crazy. So if I talk about Bulawayo, don't make it tribal. It's not tribal. Bulawayo is a place. It's not a person. So I want to look at Manica Post quickly. Let's see what is Manica Post. Oh my God, Manica Post always has the worst story. You can't believe what they're saying today. 4 human skulls discovered at a residential area. So that is at Manica Post. You can go check it out. Manica Post has got a new editor. The one that was there is now the deputy editor at the Herald. So it's saying here, 4 human skulls has been unearthed in a residential area. The usually tranquil Fen Valley community Mtare is grappling to come to terms with the terrifying discovery of 4 human skulls and an assortment of human skeletal remains that were dumped in a recently dug shallow trench. So someone has killed people and they put the skulls over there. So go check it out on Manica Post newspaper. And this is one hell of a newspaper. I like this paper. You can go check it out. They only publish once a week. So I think that is the newspaper I'm going to be featuring today. There's a lot happening. Botswana, politically, it's getting hot. Mozambique, politically, it's getting hot. And in Zimbabwe, within the next 60 days, something big is going to happen in Zimbabwe because there's too much drama and too many actors and no spectators. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Let's recap. Zimbabweans in Harare have started the process of converting bread into US dollars. So they're buying cheap Proton bread, which is now in a heavy shortage in shops for $14.50 ZIG, and taking it to the tuck shops where they're selling it $1 US, a gain of about 40%. And this gain is growing every day as the ZIG crashes. So there's a massive shortage of bread, and bread is now the US dollar. So one bread is now like the US dollar. This is what is happening in Harare, and it's happening usually through the Proton bread, which is very popular around the tuck shops. So tuck shops are now trading in US dollars exclusively because the ZIG is not available. It's only available in swipe, and the ZIG which is in the swipe is fake ZIG, which is being created by banks and the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe to dupe and to take money from ordinary, unsuspecting citizens. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'll see you again tonight at 9:10 p.m. as we cover the end of day news and also my views on how to develop our country, our beautiful country of Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, and a good day to you all.